So, hi everyone. Welcome to our very first LinkedIn Live. It's going to be a very interesting show because I have a very interesting guest with me. We're going to talk about the future of careers. And really, while this has been a topic that's been so important forever, but it's more important today than perhaps any time in the past. There are several estimates that speak about how several of the jobs that are going to be invented, that our youngsters are going to take up in the next 10 years haven't even been invented yet. In fact, by some estimates, as many as 85% of the careers which young people will have by 2030 haven't been invented. We are in a period where the whole world is going into a recession, and therefore the kinds of jobs and opportunities that were available even till a few years ago simply aren't there. And then, of course, we are entering a period of such great technological change that all of us even wonder if educational systems, organizational systems, and frankly, even our own mindsets can keep up with the technological changes that surround us everywhere. So, to help us answer some of these big questions, I have with me today Dr. Ramya Ranganathan, and I'm just going to bring her in. Hi, Ramya.
Hi, Shalini.
Oh, yes, your audio works now. So, Dr. Ramya Ranganathan is a professor of organizational behavior at IIM Bangalore. And of course, her academic record is absolutely stellar. She's a graduate from IIT Madras, and then IIM Ahmedabad, and then a PhD in organizational behavior from London Business School. So welcome to the show, Dr. Ranganathan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Shalini. My pleasure and delight to be here.
Lovely. Ramya, can you just start off by sharing with us and our audience, what were some of the factors that got you interested in careers as a topic?
Oh, lovely. Okay, sure. So the first thing that got me interested was just my own personal journey. So after I, graduated from IIM Ahmedabad, I started working, and I was working in operations and technology because that was my forte, and I was like, an engineer, and I always valued efficiency, and I wanted to make things more efficient, which is why I chose operations. And then I had a stint. I worked with a couple of different organizations: ICICI, Infosys, and Citibank. Not in banking, not in software, but in operations. And my learning there, I had two big learnings from there. One was, the thing of Monday morning blues that you're supposed to feel on Monday mornings. And I was feeling it every day and very often. So I was like, what's going on if I spend a whole bunch of my time at work and I'm not happy and I'm not like really enjoying life? What is going on? So that was the first big question mark. It seemed like a crisis then. It turned into a question mark later. And the second thing was actually when I'm at work, because I value efficiency and effectiveness, I started seeing that we weren't actually working very efficiently, right? So it's about like 5% of the projects I worked on, for example, in Citibank actually got implemented. So I started getting questions about, I opened up to the whole people world and people dynamics and what are people doing at work. So that was what got me interested. Really, it was about first shaping my own career, and then as I started doing my PhD and understanding the relationship between human beings and work, and realizing that work is just another facet of our existence. We can't separate it out, and that's where it started. Okay, I talked a lot.
No. Actually, the topics we are most interested in have some resonance with us. Otherwise, we wouldn't really go as deep into them. So there's obviously something that resonated within you in the area of careers that you've gone so deep into it. So, Dr. Ranganathan, I have for you 4 not so easy questions. on my behalf and on behalf of some of our viewers. So,
Yes. I saw that in your post, and I've been wondering what those not so easy questions are going to be.
yeah, they're going to be a surprise. But, there are things which I've heard you speak about in bits and pieces, and I want to ask you. And many of them are actually genuine questions I have, and I would like, to find some answers to. So the first question is, Ramya, you've had the kind of education which I think the most traditional, aspirational, middle class, families like many of us come from, definitely mine, would completely kill for, getting into IIT, IIT Madras, that too, and then I'm Ahmedabad, and then of course a PhD at London Business School. But at some point, and based on what you said earlier, and perhaps what I've heard you say before, elsewhere as well, you realize that careers were about something more than just the accolades, you know. So could you say a little more about, uh, you know, what that kind of realization was? Because a lot of the work you do is around not just about getting into a organization or B institute. It's about some level of self exploration and self discovery. So if you'd like to say a little bit about what is it that maybe shifted, what were some of these insights where you realized that careers are about so much more?
Lovely. Thank you. Beautiful question. And okay, so I guess at the heart of that question for me, it's been connecting more and more with the primary question about why am I doing what I'm doing? So, the self discovery that you talked about, and there are different facets to it, but here it's about the doing aspect. I'm doing something, but why am I actually doing it? What do I want underneath that? So, for example, since you mentioned, the degrees, okay, so why did I even get into IIT? Okay, very short incident. I was in second grade, 7-year-old, living in Jamshedpur in these flats, and one morning, where all the balconies overlook one another. And one morning, there's this auntie who's shouting, "Congratulations, because," and all the aunties and uncles come into their balcony and they're all like, "Congrats, congrats." I was like, what's going on? Okay. Turns out she had got into IIT. And in that moment, I was like, I want that. And I had no idea what's IIT. It could be an ice cream, it could be a dress, it could be a doggy. But whatever it was, I wanted it. And I always knew I wanted to get into IT. And of course, then of course comes the hard work and the preparation and the focus and all of that, right? Much later, I realized what I really wanted was that, about all the adults, because they were important and significant in my life. I wanted them to feel proud about me, feel like I've arrived, and my parents to feel proud about me. And so that is the underneath, the thing that I was actually chasing in quotes. And so it is with a lot of the things that we do, like even if it's about creating impact or about, discovering a new thing or doing a certain kind of work, we're doing it because we want to do something. And then when I started asking those questions, why do I want that? So even with this question of why do I want the adults or people around me to think I'm this amazing genius? Why do I want that actually, right? So it goes into deeper questions and deeper questions. And then that's the self-discovery aspect. So that's been my line of inquiry into careers, which is basically the word that we use for the linear or non-linear trajectory of the things that we are doing in terms of, and it can be in exchange for money or not, and you know that, right? So we have a portfolio there, but basically, why are we doing what we're doing, and therefore.
That really resonates, Ramya. To be honest, I entered IMA only because it was considered a smart thing to do. I had no idea about business school. I think I was completely unprepared, for everything that followed. But because when I was in college, everyone was, oh, that's the best thing if you got into, one of the IIMs. But sort of your life was made. And if you're a good student and know how to do exams well, so you crack that part of it. And then actually the first term, the winter break, when I came home, I told my parents I don't want to go back. I wasn't enjoying it. But my parents were like parents, everywhere. They were absolutely, education oriented, aspirational. And they were like, listen, there's no choice. You have to go back. Nobody, just comes home and says, I don't like IM and therefore I'm not going back. So they sent me back, and that was a very, very wise choice. But I completely, completely resonate with what you're saying. Ramya, my next question is, in times like today, where, I mean, I'm sure you know even more than me about how the changing world is impacting skills and the kinds of jobs and careers that are going to be available. Uh, how do you think this fast changing world on the outside impacts the way we think about careers? Has something fundamentally shifted?
Yes, I think it has. And again, I'll just give a simple example, the easiest example that I know the most about, which is me in the last 3 months. And so all my classes were outside, as in face-to-face classes. That's why I got into teaching. That's why I conduct workshops. I love the magic that occurs in classes. My favorite places in the world are beaches, mountains, and classrooms, in that order. So I love the magic. I'm an extrovert. And that's why I was doing what I did. And then COVID came and classes turned into online, right? And it's a whole different thing. And now addressing your question, my skill sets, my interests, the thing that sort of turned me on in the work that I did was sort of now, so after I'm sitting alone at home and it's a different thing. So it was time to reinvent, to ask myself a whole lot of questions, and that occurs in different ways. So I did go into my own version of mourning and my own version of feeling like a victim, like the whole world, like not individually, but collectively like a victim, and saying, oh, this is so bad, and what do we do? And the forecast is really, really gloomy. And it lasted for, I think, a month maybe. And then I was like, cut it. That's it, Ramya, because that could go on and on and on. Now, what can we do here, right? So literally changing the question I asked myself, what are the opportunities I see here? How can I reinvent myself? There were certain skills and interests that I had found a wonderful place for me to take out as the work that I was doing. That's not happening anymore, at least for the next maybe 1 or 2 years. I don't know how far. What else do I have inside of me? What else turns me on? What else am I interested in? And how can I get that out into the work that I do? And I started doing online book clubs and different things and online courses. And I've been joking to my husband now, and I'm using social media much more. That, now this is a P2S model, professor to student. And I started seeing opportunities and upsides that weren't anywhere in my reality earlier. And also choosing things that I wouldn't have chosen. So I was not so much a tech person. My son is. So actually, we had a tech hiccup just before this call, okay? And he came and like super speed, he helped me set this whole thing up, because we were trying with a new mic yesterday and he had changed the settings in my computer and it happened. So I have actually had to befriend technology in a big way. And of course, for me, it's really helpful that my son is around and he's such a big fan of technology. But so I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for these times. So I guess the answer is, it is tough. A lot of us might be feeling that the things we qualified ourselves in, or the things we found as great opportunities, are no longer relevant. But there's always way, way, way more inside of us. And I think it is crises and times like this that make us look in and say, okay, what else is there that I can bring out? What else is there that I can hone as a skill and a strength and practice? And of course, we get better with that and then use that. So that is my answer.
I understand that. Ramya, a related question then. One of the reasons why parents, for instance, want their kids to attend ABC college, get, a certain kind of education, is because they believe and they have a sort of faith that if they have those kind of qualifications and, that kind of an educational resume, uh, they will have a career which is set, like it's a path that they just have to get on, and then sort of the path will carry them through. uh, do you think this will play out in the future?
No. So that was the, I know, I mean, I usually don't give yes, no answers because the world isn't that simple. But with this question, I will say no, because as far as I'm concerned, actually, I think it wasn't even playing out in the past. It might have played out to some extent in my father's generation. Even in my generation, it really wasn't playing out. This whole idea, and this is not just in careers, even in marriage, anything. It's like settle ho jao, beta settle ho jao. You will get set, right? And then the path will carry you. The institution will carry you. And I totally get that. My father got settled in Tata Steel, and they carried him till he retired, right? Settled in a marriage, settled in things. But that is changing, and this is, of course, a whole big topic. We sometimes have, like with the MBA PGP students, we have like a whole class. We talk about these things, but basically, in a nutshell, it's like when things are changing, uncertain times, fast times, and a lot of this was happening even before COVID because of the technological innovation, literally, right? Internet and so much changing. And now that's accelerated. So that set path is like this total myth. It's like, hey, like, who are we even fooling ourselves? And in the absence of that set path, why would we even put our coins into trying to get into an illusionary set path? Those set trajectories just don't exist, except in our fantasies. And the fantasies we're carrying on as a replication, copy paste of 40 years ago.
That's Ramya, what a profound point that is, because I think parents everywhere are carrying memories from what they have seen in the past in the way that they guide their children. And by the way, that's as parents, but it's also as we see our own careers. We sort of hope for that, that set path that we can somehow get on. And many of, us who have stepped off perhaps a very standard set path, we miss that familiarity of, okay, this is next, and then this is next, etc. So there is this perhaps, maybe a mourning which needs to happen in some way for the loss of that, the certainty which the set paths gave, which, really don't exist except in, as you said, fantasies anymore. So then we come to my final question, Ramya. So if careers as we thought of them are now, something we're carrying from the past, maybe a fantasy, then what takes their place? How should we think about careers? What are some of the 2 or 3 guiding principles?
Okay, lovely. Well, I would say, like anything else in life, careers is also a label, right? It's a label that as a society, we gave that label to, अच्छा ये किया, फिर ये किया, फिर ये किया, फिर ये प्रमोशन मिला, फिर ये हुआ, ये इस कंपनी में काम किया, यहाँ पे गई. I'm sorry, I went into Hindi, but I did this and I did this. So that whole chain of events, which is typically what we also put in a linear format in our CV, that we call that career. Now, what we can look at is what's actually this thing that we call a career, that we even put on our CVs or LinkedIn profiles. What is it a reflection of? It's a reflection of the actions that we're doing, and along that, the learnings that we're learning, the way we're growing, and essentially the people that we're being. So go back into that. So I think each one of us who is in search of crafting a career, or who is in search of, having a great career, we can just start off by being the greatest versions of ourselves that we can, and then seeing in what context, to which groups, with which individuals in the world can we have a relationship. Right? Because even you and your employer, it was always a relationship. Some people think of it very transactionally. Some people think of it in terms of nurturing one another. Some people think of it as in terms of win-win. We contribute to each other's mission. But whatever it is a relationship. So maybe what we thought of as a set of linear relationships can be replaced in any format. And this is what excites me most about the careers of the future, is that we can go multidimensional, which means if you look at slash careers, right? And a lot of people are doing that. I can freelance a bit with this person or this institute, something like what I'm doing right now, doing courses, work with this institute, do this. And that's okay. That's okay, right? Or we can invest in one kind of exchange with one entity or organization, because we're learning a lot there, and do another thing because that's where the money comes in, and a third thing because that's where we want to contribute. Or we can bring even all of these into the same thing. So literally the sky is the limit. So we can look at our lives like a canvas, and see what it is that we can do to bring out the greatest versions of ourselves, to be a contribution to others, and to have fun and to grow. And it's like whatever you want to do, right? Some people want to grow, some people want to contribute, some people want to have fun, some people just want to feel alive. That's me. So I just want to get up every morning, not feeling the Monday morning blue, but feeling excited. Like today, I was really excited that I was going to have this conversation with you. So I'm like, yay. So setting up these dates for ourselves, these longer, bigger dates with organizations, institutes, and individuals. And that could be our world of work.
So then coming to my final question. Do you think there's a trade-off? So is there a trade-off between pursuing a passion and pursuing economic stability?
Lovely. Okay, so thank you, because this has been a big question that guided a lot of my research within organizational behavior. And these are some things that you can test out, actually. You can look at people, right? You can explore these things. And there is a whole accompanying field of positive psychology, which also looks at a parallel question, which is looking at happiness, the way we feel, and our performance. And I'm just going to, I bring this in as a parallel because when we're pursuing a passion, we feel happy. The happiness could be like this hedonic happiness of yay, or it could be the eudaimonic happiness of a sense of purpose, fulfillment, meaning, and all of that, right? But at the end of it, it's some version of happiness. That's why we call it passion. And when you look at financial stability, it's usually always linked in a capitalistic society to performance. You deliver, you help other people, you contribute to people's lives, you create products and services that are valuable, and then that brings in money, and that gives you the financial stability. So if you look at happiness and performance, there is a huge correlation. And while it can be a chicken and egg story, the science, the way our brains are actually configured is that we actually perform better when we are happy. So I won't go into the neuroscience aspect of it, but anyone can look it up. There's a lot of research out there on my webpage or on the internet or anywhere. So which is why I think they can go hand in hand. It's not a trade-off. This actually helps this. And for sometimes, and including in my own life and trajectory, in the short run, there might be a trade-off. In the long run, you always see that this supports that. So it's a ratio, proportion, permutation, combination that each one of us have to look at. And if in the short run, you need to trade off your passion or happiness for performance or to get something, and that's totally fine, as long as you know that in the long run, you're not doing that short-term trade-off and assuming that that's going to be the way of life forever.
From all that you say, Ramya, the future looks exciting, of course, because as you spoke about, there's a lot that we can design around what our careers will look like, perhaps more than any other time before. But of course, there's a lot more responsibility on us designing. So
we are the artists.
Yes, we are the artists. We have like a blank canvas or of sorts, and we can paint it any colors, but we have to decide what are the colors, what will the drawing look like, and what are the trade-offs that we are willing to make it look a certain way.
And also the path dependency, because I love the painting analogy, but you do a painting and it's just now, right? But with your careers, it's more a bit like sculpting or gardening. Like you plant the seeds, and after 10 years, there's a seed that's going to sprout. So there's a path dependency to every choice, every action. So yeah, so it's like yeah.
Beautiful. And Ramya, I understand that you're teaching a course. I saw you speak about that.
Yes.
So could you share a little bit about what is this course and what do people learn in it?
Yeah, sure. So this is actually one of my own first offerings in the P2S model, as I call it. And it is a course on designing your careers. And like I told you, there are pros and cons to doing this online. So it is a version of a course that I've been teaching for 10 years that I'm in Bangalore. But to make it work online, offline, there's a lovely book that we will be using to support ourselves. And the book is called Designing Our Lives. And it's by Bill and Dave from Stanford, who've done a lot of work in this area as well. They use design thinking aspects. So the same framework of design thinking is something that we bring to crafting and designing our lives and careers. So this is, the course starts on 10th July. It's going to run for 12 weeks. And in 12 weeks, every participant will work through the 11 chapters in the book, which takes you through a lot of hard work and reflective exercises and prototyping, literally designing. And I'll be doing one call every week with the participants, and we have group activities and an online closed Facebook group for interaction and bonus content. So I'll be there to facilitate your journey in that. So
That
that's
sounds fascinating, Ramya. In fact, I'm a big fan of that book too. So in our book, we had referred to this book as well because I loved, I mean, some of the ideas I loved from the book were that you don't need to know, you can just test it out. So you don't have to necessarily just know what is it that's going to excite you. You can have hypotheses, so to say, and then you can test them out and use your experiences to be mindful about what energizes you and just really build a career around that.
and
So
it's
let me just
very
ask, would anyone, yeah, absolutely. So if anyone's interested in joining your program, they can reach out to you, right?
yes. And post it
So let
or
me
something below this. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the comments to see whether there are any questions. We have a lot of comments and a lot of familiar names and faces. Lovely. Um, but I don't think there are any questions. If anyone has any questions for Ramya, Vishal Shah saying which book again? It's called Designing Your Life, right? Bill Burnett and Dave Evans.
Events. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the story of the book is also so interesting, right? It's the most popular course at Stanford. And as you said, they're design thinking professors. They're not even OB professors, but
Yeah.
that's why they're taking such a experimental, position on how to
And
do
it's a very practical approach. So I have another course on edX on a similar theme. It's called Crafting Realities, Work, Happiness, and Meaning. But me being an academic, that course is all about theory. Like I really teach you how the brain functions and why and all of that. This course is practical. They don't, they don't get into the theory, no philosophy. They're just like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And at the end of it, you're like, wow, I'm doing something with my life. I'm doing something with my career, and this is so much fun. So
Right, right. So we have a question on the link for registering for your course, and maybe you can put it up on your LinkedIn page so that
sure.
if anyone is curious, they can find out. So I think that's it from my end, Ramya. It was so wonderful, being in discussions around career because, we all speak of future of work, and actually as Uncube, that's the area that we work in. Most of our work is with organizational leaders and what does this mean for the way organizations need to be designed, leadership, culture. There's such big shifts in the external environment which will require shifts in organizations so that they are have the capacity to respond. But nothing is as personal as careers. So, while of course in our role as, if you're a leader, you're extremely interested in how you should be leading differently or designing your organization differently, etc., etc. But nothing is really as personal as, how do you think about your own career? And like you said, I think things have shifted dramatically and many of us actually hold ideas about careers that are actually outdated because linear careers they started breaking down in the last decade itself. They've
Yes.
broken down quite a bit, and there is nothing that suggests that this breakdown will not become faster over the next few years. In fact, we're seeing that, and we have a double whammy because of the recession. That the standard career paths as people have hoped for really do become fewer and fewer. So that forces all of us to think about, okay, so what are the new ideas for thinking about your career? So I really found that a very, very helpful conversation. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for everyone who joined us. This was actually our first LinkedIn Live as Anu. And as I just said a while ago, at Uncube, me and my co-founder Jaspreet Mindra, who's a thought leader in the digital transformation space, we work with organizations to share our ideas around the kind of leadership, culture, design, technology, business models that will be more helpful for organizations in the future. So we're sort of a think tank plus advisory plus educator, if you like. And if you like some of these ideas, do follow our LinkedIn page because we do post fresh content pretty much every day. And we would love to interact with you there. With that, thank you so much. Thank you, Ramya. Thank you, everyone who joined us. And I'll post details about the next episode soon after. Thank you. Bye.